Everyone, it is 6:32 and we are going to conduct our next budget meeting presented by the town manager and his staff. And so looks like we do have a quorum and with some different counselors trickling in. So we will go ahead and get started. Mr. Town Manager, you have the floor. And again, good evening, everyone. Hey, Chief.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councilors. Good evening, citizens of Bloomfield and the distinguished team of folks of Team Bloomfield. Thank you for your attendance here this evening. We're here to present the budget for 3 additional departments this evening, which will be our building and land use, as well as Department of Public Works, and we'll complete tonight's presentation with our Public Safety Department, which consists of our Police Department and Bloomfield Volunteer Ambulance. So if I can have the first slide, please. Okay, so as this is a continuation of last week, the format will be the same. Right here, you're looking at the building department, and they're basically telling you what they do, right? So we have the building and land use department is comprised of our building division and planning and zoning and economic development division. And within the department itself, we have the building division and building zoning, economic, and the work that they do to help us towards the growth that we are all in anticipation of with Goldman and York. Next slide, please. Okay, the budget supports 10 full-time and 3 part-time employees, as well as their some contractual services that we have, and education and training that occurs, and technical assistance that's provided to residents, developers, and community stakeholders. Next slide, please. When we talk about the budget for this department, what is really drives this department are the following items that you see listed here. We look at the full-time driver. Right now it's up by 2.65%. Probably one of the most modest increases of all departments. It's up significantly with the part-time, which that is an environmental position that we're seeking to have filled. It will be a part-time position. We're looking for a zoning consultant to help us with always get that acronym. Is it POCD? Yeah, okay, POCD. And also going to continue with our services provided by Goldman and York. That $9,000 that you see now is an increase per the contract. And you'll also see a town center CIF grant application. We anticipate that to be money that we'll need for contracted services to assist in applying for funding to help with the town center development. And the last thing that you see there is a state education fee, and that's driven by folks that come and apply for permits. There's a certain amount of money that we have to give back to the state, which goes towards a state education fee based on the number of permits. You'll see that fiscal year 24 and 25, there are zeros in those spaces, and that's because with our CFO, Mr. Hill and his team, we realized that we were not drawing that money appropriately in terms of we were collecting that money from revenue of permits. Instead, we should have had a line item for that expense. But at the end of the day, there's really, the revenue does cover the expense itself. So although it may appear to be an increase, in actuality, it isn't, because that revenue goes back towards general fund. So those are the budget drivers, and subject to your questions, this concludes. Yes, sir. Sure.
Quick question.
Yes.
So in our book on page 46, it says 9.9, and up here it says 905. So if that's 905 is the total for, this the planning department, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we have a 909 here in our book, and that says 905,
On what page, I'm sorry?
46.
26.
And then I have more additional questions related to this.
Oh, I see.
So maybe we just get an updated page, and hopefully the public can also get an updated page as to what the true change is. And then the funding for the economic development consultant, what is the increase of $9,000 for?
That's per the contract that we signed with Goldman, New York?
For the POCD?
No, that's for the function that they serve.
Also, their general contract is increasing. Their on contract is going up, okay.
Right.
Perfect. And then for the state education fees, so you mean to tell me in 24, 25, we have not paid the state when we were supposed to pay the state?
No. We paid, but we did not pay out of a line item that we had established because we didn't have one established at that time. We
Okay.
paid out of revenues that the department
Out of the
had.
general fund?
Out of their revenues.
Okay, so this is just doing the back cleanup accounting.
Exactly,
Okay, it's just
yeah.
a function of accounting, just
Yes.
making sure that there's a designated specific line item.
Yes.
Budget line for
Yes.
this fee.
And that happened in another department as well. We'll get to that when we
46.
brief that department's budget drivers.
Okay, and then my last question, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through you to the town manager. The permit fees, we usually are conservative with building permit fees, and I know a lot of development is happening, but at what point do we start to get a little just bit more conservative? Because as you start to develop open space in other areas, the permit, your land mass that you have to develop tends to shrink. So have we forecast when we believe that we can start decreasing those permits and not heavily relying on them?
We will, to the extent that it's been anticipated at this point. I can't speak to that at this time, but I will get with the team and we'll let you know what we believe those numbers to be.
Good. And then last year, we did the positions for the department. Is the department fully staffed?
They're staffed.
Good. How is the zoning enforcement officers working?
I can have Mr. Coleman come on up here
Perfect.
so he can speak to these questions. But I can tell you the one thing that we are interested in trying to fill is that environmental part-time position. So, but I'll ask Mr. Coleman to come and speak to us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, members of council, Madam Mayor. The zoning enforcement officer program is working exceedingly well. He's very busy. He's out there enforcing, and we're in the process of putting an entire blight enforcement program in place that we'll be able to carry forward. And as the manager indicated, we still have one vacant position, and that is the environmental / sort of grants coordinator position that we would like to retain and fill so that we can be much more aggressive on the environmental side, particularly on open space and implementing the Conservation Energy Committee initiatives.
Quick question related to that. I know we allocated money for to be designated as Tree City. Did we use all of the funds designated for Tree City? I think we needed to spend like somewhere near $2 per capita or $3 per, how much? 50,000. So is part of that going to support the environmental plan or no? Okay, perfect. That concludes my report. Well, not my report, excuse me, my questioning for this department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Council.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Town Manager, I'm not sure if you can answer this or somebody else. I just was curious on the comparison from what we charge for those permits, what compared to what other towns charge for those permits around us.
Our building permits?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have that information, Dwight? Do you have a comparison of what we charge? If you do, you can come on up.
No.
No?
No, we don't. We know we're competitive with most.
You can come on up. State your name.
Okay, good morning or good evening, everybody. Dwight Carlson, I'm the building official. We have looked around to other towns. We feel that we're very competitive. The fee structures are different all around. Some start at, our initial start is $60 per 3,000. and then it's every $17 thereafter for every 1,000 thereafter. Simsbury is $13. And it's all over the place anywhere you go. So, what's that?
Mention the new fees you put in place.
Well, we do have, as you well know, the new fees, the reinspection fees and ordinance, investigation fees and other fees that we've also established, but they're not related to the permit process.
Do you see us, if we raised up those fees, do you think that would push people or wouldn't make a difference? People away, or would, like, are they saving that much where if we did raise it up a little bit for extra revenue that they would run away or they wouldn't run away?
That's a tricky slope. My feeling, my personal opinion is we provide a service to our community and we have to be able to support those numbers, and it should be a wash per se. When you start getting into the revenues much higher than their actual cost of the budget, then you start to question, why are our fees so high? So if that's up to you guys to decide, I can only give you the information what other towns are doing. But I would say there are a lot. Hartford does plan review fees. They issue fees for certificate of occupancies. They charge per square foot of the space or building. It varies.
I guess my question, sorry for not being more clear, was more directed towards like new construction for like developers. Is there a different permit fee for residents compared to builders and developers?
No.
Do other towns have it the same, like we have it the same, or do they have two different categories?
Some charge for commercial, some charge for residential.
Would it be a good idea for us to charge extra for commercial or not? Would that's basically what I was getting at. If we charge more for commercial, would that push developers away?
Let them finish.
I believe that's up to you guys to decide, but I would be careful with that. Again, I reiterate just the fact that we're trying to provide a service.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Councilor McClary.
Thank you. I want to stay on that line of questioning because TPC is doing or reviewing the inclusionary zoning and raising the affordable housing from 10%, hopefully to between 12 and 13%, whatever they settle on. But in that piece of ordinance that was advocated by me was something called a linkage fee for commercial properties. And a percentage of that linkage fee would go to support the development of affordable housing. So for example, if the mega warehouse was to come in and this ordinance was passed and they did 90,000 square feet, there would be a per square foot charge attached to the commercial building permit fee, and then that revenue will go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So what I'm hearing you're saying, based on what Mike's line of question is, that there is a cap that you believe that will then become questionable as to why we charging over, because now we're using the building permit fee to be a revenue generated to support the other budget. So in your professional experience, do you think it would be this body, if that ordinance is passed by TPZ, it would be in the best interest of this body to create an additional fee instead of tacking on to the current building permit fee?
Yeah, I believe that, like other towns, they have what you call an impact fee. Developers, when they come into town, by ordinance or other areas, they charge a fee associated on how the development impacts the infrastructures, your school, your water, your sewer lines. So if you're alluding to that, that's probably a good place to start. What I would do is concentrate on that, and I would provide a service that's competitive. This is why I'm not a big proponent of issuing COs and charging a price for that. My feeling is that we charge the service based on the permit fee, which includes all that.
Good. Okay, thank you. Let's stay on this line of questioning. Sorry, Mr. Deputy Mayor, because I think it's important. A couple of months ago, we passed, this body passed under your advice, the re-inspection or non-permit work fee. Like if folks didn't go out and get a permit and did work.
Unpermitted work.
Unpermitted work,
Yep.
we would do a fee. Have you seen how many unpermitted, unlicensed work permits have you charged people? And what has been the feedback from the community relative to that program?
It's, what we try to do is, those numbers will generate this year, this fiscal year. We are seeing a lot of fees, unpermitted work fees. What this does is, like, the purpose of this ordinance is to motivate our contractors who are professionals, they know what they're doing, to get the proper permits. And we try to be less, more discretionary to our residential and our property owners because they may not know this. So often what happens is they'll come across and the contractor will push the fee onto the property owner. So it's a fine line on how that works. And I try to give them an opportunity to correct it, but there are some people that continue on doing the same thing. And for those,
I'm just concerned because and I was concerned at the time it was proposed that if I purchased a house or if I built a new house and the developer, I'm paying all of the things that I'm supposed to pay based on what they outline in the PO and pulling of permits is there and they decide not to do it and I pay for the service and then I come back and then I find out that my work isn't permitted and then I get charged another assessment. Is there a mechanism for you to go after the developer and hold them accountable and not charge the resident of the town of Bloomfield that fee?
so like I said before, if you look at the way the ordinance is written, it's at the discretion of the building official. So what we do is we look at situations like that, and my personal opinion is I try not to impact those property owners. I'm a firm advocate of that. I don't believe in that.
So how many of those, how many?
I don't know.
What's the dollar value? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. Those are coming in. Now, some of them are large. We had a situation over on one of our communities where the contractor was putting in new heating units because the old heating units were failing. And we had a fire out there, and that's how we stumbled on the fact that they were doing this. And what we found was that they were putting in these units at the cost of $1.4 million between all the houses. So according to our ordinance, that would have been an equivalent $1.4 million, or it would have been the permit fee, which I think was about $100,000. So it would have been a $200,000 permit.
So where is that particular revenue in your line, in your budget?
We did break that out. That is not in there. That's underneath permits and revenues. But we are breaking that out into another,
I don't see that here.
it's not in there. No.
Well, can we get that, please, just so that we can?
Sure.
I just want to be able to track that.
I can break it out to what we're paying on reinspection fees so far this year and for those ordinances to see how they're paying back. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I just want
Yeah.
to track, because we didn't have it last year.
Yeah.
I just want to see what the revenue is.
Yeah, no problem.
anticipated this year.
Yep.
And then we can just keep an eye on it, because I think that's going to be a soft spot to many residents in this community, because
I agree.
they're under the interpretation that when they're purchasing a house, granted, they got to deal with their realtor and whatever the case may be, but they're under the interpretation that everything is good. And so if they go and try to do a bathroom or do
Yeah.
something else and find out that their basement isn't permitted and they got to tear everything out, that's going to be a big sticker price to them. And I just think that's going to be a problem, and I want to be able to track it.
There's two issues. There's one, you're still obligated to come into compliance with the building code. So regardless of whether you did that or inherited that, you're still obligated to legalize that work.
But that, it may not be in people's budget, and that could be a serious problem. And I fundamentally believe that we should be going after either the developer, the builder, the homeowner, the previous homeowner. We cannot put that on people, because it is an unanticipated burden that you're going to put on them. And I get the health and safety aspect of it, but still we need to go after the original source. But we can discuss this.
Yeah,
Out in committee. Thank you.
Councilor Merritt?
Answer to that.
Well, I'm just going to add that the unpermitted work, when that happens, what typically happens is it doesn't get picked up to the next transfer of ownership. So what happens is when somebody comes in to purchase the property, they come in there with a new real estate agent and they realize at that time the work was done without permits. So then at the time they're pulling and scrambling to get that work done. Now, there's two ways we can go. We can go with the investigation fee for doing work without a permit. So by ordinance, we have the right to do that. The other is that even if we don't charge them for the unpermitted work, they're still obligated to bring it up to the building code. That doesn't stop that portion.
Councilor Merritt.
Yeah, I have questions. One is, first I might appreciate.
Mike.
Okay, back when we first discussed this last year, I guess it was, I appreciate you've reacted and made this so you have discretion and you're not going to beat up on the homeowner trying to do his own repairs. I mean, I still don't understand completely if you get a plumber to come in and you have a black faucet or something, they say, oh, we don't need a permit to do that. Is that true?
They'll tell you that, yes.
I know they tell me that, but you're saying they do need a permit?
It depends on what the work is. If you're replacing the sink, technically, yes, you need a permit.
But if you're just unplugging a clogged,
No, you don't need a
okay.
permit for that.
That was the question I've always had. But I think you're handling this very well, and I appreciate that because I think it has to be done with discretion, especially for those of us who do some of their own work.
And the goal is to motivate the individuals that are not complying with the building code and know better.
Yeah.
And for those, we're left helpless. And now we have a tool in our tool belt to use.
Okay, thank you.
And that was the purpose.
I have another question for our town planner. If this is everybody done with, anybody have any questions for?
I have actually a question.
Okay.
Yeah, before you go. Thank you very much for the answer that you gave. And that exchange was very informative between you and Councilor McCleary. I learned quite a bit myself, so I appreciate that. And thank you, Councilor McCleary, for your questions on the matter. You mentioned the fact that there's almost a balance between the cost and benefit. Where do you feel like we are currently? Do you feel like we're striking that balance, or is there some room to go?
I believe we are striking that balance. There's a couple different opinions. A lot of towns like to use the building department as a revenue source. My opinion is if you start to review your budget line, and I say again, is you look at the operating cost of the actual line item and you look at your salaries and everything else that makes that department run. If you're running net zero on that, then you're right about where you need to be, in my opinion. You guys can add that to yourself, but certainly when you start getting backed up because of the work, you get the people aren't getting their inspections on time. That's another number you look at, and the permit, the inspection fees, the re-inspection fees for the people who can't get it right the 3 times or the 4 times. That just, and it's really not a ton of money, but it just able to, for us to recoup some of that. So yes, I believe we're right around the mark. I think at times we could probably use another person.
Okay.
But maybe next year.
All right, thank you.
We have another question for you from Councilor McCleary, and then
Yeah,
we'll move.
thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm struggling with this because I hear the right balance for commercial properties and developers, but I don't hear that same thing when it comes to our residents. What is the right balance for them? We're finding all of these other reinspection fees and all these other non-permitted work fees, and we're charging our residential residents and seniors to do these things. And this is my fundamental problem with the TPZ. They're more geared towards making sure that the developer is okay and that the developer can do work in this town. And I think the sole purpose of the TPZ is to protect the residents of Bloomfield. And so what is the right balance from a residential property permit fee? Do you think we're overcharging our residents? If you don't feel that way, is there also a program that we can implement to kind of help our seniors and other residents that may be on fixed limited income? Because I can remember an incident where a resident just wanted to extend the deck and then they had to go and do another like a permit. Like if one is already there and they're doing some work on it, why are we charging them addition? So what is the balance that we have on the residential side? I hear the balance about the commercial, large millionaires, developers who have access to a large amount of money versus people who are limited income and or on fixed income. So I would love to hear what the balance is for the residential side.
Speak to balance and then I'll
Okay.
talk to us about the fee.
Okay. The balance is the $17 per thousand. If the council feels as if it's unfair, that's entirely, I can bring you the information. Some people, some towns do charge our commercial property owners more, but that's entirely up to you. I can just share with you the different towns, and I can certainly go out to CROG and other people that can help us support those numbers. But yeah.
Mr. Manager, through you, if we could get that on the Finance Committee meeting next month, I think I would like to start to investigate that so we can bring something back to the council and just make sure that we find that balance for residential homeowners. Thank you.
Certainly, Councilman Cleary, I believe Mr. Coleman wanted to add a thought.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. A couple of thoughts. One, in terms of the fees and the balance, that's a policy decision, and that really rests with you. As Dwight indicated, we can give you the numbers and we can give you comparisons, but it's really because the council sets the fees. TPZ doesn't set the fees. The building department doesn't set the fees. When all is said and done, council sets the fees. And we will charge the fees that you set. And if you want to have a schedule that is beneficial to homeowners, that is certainly within your policy right. And you will not get an objection from us. Service is our uppermost concern, and particularly to the residents. And on the land use side, you did pass a set of new fees last April, which significantly increased on the commercial side, but did not for the residents. So the residents on the land use side for zoning permits, wetland permits, still have significantly lower fees than you would see on the commercial side. That was a policy decision that you made. And it's certainly within your right to make that decision, and we'll provide you all the facts you need to make a learned decision in that regard.
Yeah, I appreciate that because and I could be wrong, but I feel like if residents are paying taxes to pay the building department salaries, then we then come back around and charge them additional money when they're already paying taxes to pay salaries. And I know this is a revenue generated department and it helps with building fees, but I would love, in addition to what we charge, like what do we have in the budget for building permit fees and how is that driving the overall larger budget for here? Because if we decide to lower fees, that's going to have an impact on the bottom line of a whole budget. Because if you're putting 1.1 million, 2 million in that line item, and we say we're going to cut that by a third, you got to find that revenue somewhere else. So I just want to make sure I have that information so that we as a body can make the appropriate decision.
In total, we're going to have about 1.8 million this year,
Okay.
and we're projecting 1.3 million next year. And I can be wrong, and Dwight would correct me, but I suspect that the majority of those fees are on the commercial side. So in terms of overall fees, commercial is still paying it. If you feel that you want to have a significantly lower fee for residents, just tell us.
That's something we have to dig out in finance. I
Yep.
can't make that decision here. And so hopefully at the next finance committee meeting, we'll have a presentation. Thank you.
Be happy to.
Thank you, Councilor McCleary. And now we
I
have.
a question. One second, Deputy Mayor. John, question. Line item for the SIF, the 30,000. What is the kind of precipitous of that? You know, we haven't paid that type of money or allocated that type of fund for grant writing. We typically have the leaders, like a leisure services lead, our Goma New York consultants, I believe, are paid for some of these services to assist us. But we're putting $30,000 in the budget to help to support these grant efforts, even though their contract is going up as well. So can you just help me understand kind of the driver of why this is in this section?
I put it in, Madam Mayor, as a sort of a placeholder. I had conversations with Goldman and York because I anticipate, quite frankly, that the council is going to want to seek an implementation CIF grant for the town center after you adopt the town center plan. I asked them what the cost would be. They can absorb some of the cost, but they indicated that in terms of having a professional group that they've worked with before, that the costs are in that ballpark. If certainly the staff can do a fair amount of that work, but I'm not sure that we're fully equipped to get the complete grant done in a timely fashion so that you can meet the time requirements of the state so that we can have our application in to get as early as possible to take advantage of the CIF funding.
Okay, because that's a pretty big line item that we can potentially include in I don't know, I talked to the leadership of the council recently about the Economic Development Trust and the mechanisms that they could be used for. So that could potentially be an area to draw from. But I just never saw this line item on the agenda. So I understand that we are very aggressive when it comes to our town center plan. This is my top priority, but we also have to, I don't want to put in, I don't know, it just feels like we're increasing our pay and our contracts for our economic development consultants, but then we're also kind of double dipping with a big ticket item. But I do thank you for understanding the priorities of the council, making sure that the presentation matches those priorities. But thank you.
Further on that, may I speak?
Well, I understand your concern, Madam Mayor, and I'm the one that put it in at the last moment. So that's why it wasn't in your original book, and my apologies for my late thinking.
Councilor Merritt has been
I'm
patient, so
going back to the full-time job, which was formerly a half-time job for simply, and it's been a job that's been there right along, and we just couldn't afford it in the last few years. So it's been an empty seat, and I'm happy to see you put that in. The CEC is happy to see that's in there because it's much needed in the environmental regime. But also, over the years, I mean, one of the things that we as a town have failed at doing is to get grants. We just have not had the time and inclination to go after grants the way, say, the Board of Education does. They have a full-time grant person, and she does a wonderful job. Much of their budget comes from grants, saving the taxpayers a lot of money. So I think it's a really, it's almost stupid that we haven't done this before. And to have somebody at least have time working on grant applications, I think is a very wise thing to do. And we have missed out on so much money over the years. So I'm glad that's in there. And I'm also glad that we are restoring the environmental part of the job as well. So thank you.
We appreciate your support and don't want to speak out of school, but we're also very fortunate to have a town engineer who's probably one of the best grant go-afters around. And he's
I
already
agree. I agree with you. He's doing
he's
a
already
marvelous job.
he's already demonstrated that since he's been here. So we will have someone to work with when we hire this position.
great. Councilor McCleary.
I'm sorry, I just hyper-focus on this budget because it ultimately impacts residents, and I talked about it earlier when we kicked off about the spending problem I fundamentally believe we have across the town and the cost of OPEB. And for the last 4 years, I've been writing about in the town's paper about the bubble bursting. And I fundamentally believe this year is the year that the bubble is bursting. And so I see $137,000 just for medical, and then I see another for like 10% for life insurance. But then I look down and I see that we have 100% increase from 1 year to the next. But the previous year we had 14,939 in for building. I think is it the software for the building permit? It says building department permit EXP. And that's going up to 26,000.
What page are you on?
I'm on 47. Just pass it on down. Oh, they have it.
That's the accounting one.
Yeah, okay. So what is your question, sir?
What is the building department permit EXP?
That's what we had spoken about on the slide that was presented on the screen. It listed it as education. If we can go back to the slide, please.
But then there's 23% of another 5,000 increase for education rate, two lines down.
That's the training for the department. But this right here, that state education fee, that's fee that the state collects from us for each of the permits that we issue. We have to, on a quarterly basis, pay back the state based on the permits we issue. And so that's what that 26,000 represents.
All right, so maybe we need to just consistently align.
Yes,
The-
yes,
the-
yes, yes.
the
Yeah,
naming
no,
convention on the
I saw
document.
this matter when I looked at the budget drivers in preparation for tonight. And as a result of that, we have this language on the slide. So, but we will correct it to make sure that it's consistent throughout.
And so we didn't pay anything last year. It
For
says
what, sir?
zero. It says zero and
No, what had happened last year is we paid out a revenue instead of having it as a line item.
got it.
So we show zeros there because it wasn't established line item. Our CFO and his team recognized that was an issue.
I see-
You'll see it in
I
another
see it in
department as well.
actuals. I see it in
Right.
actuals for this year. Got it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Oliver.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We have an land CE tech supplies. It went up 233%. It was an average of 300 every year, and now it's 1,000. What do those supplies incorporate for it to go up that much?
Okay, so we'll talk about here.
It's basically basic supplies that we basically run out of all the time. And so it's just basically being accurate in terms of what we're really going to need or do use on an annual basis. Yeah, and we're also fully staffed now. Say again?
Civil engineering tech supplies and CE tech supplies?
It's more for the
Sorry.
land use people as it is for some engineers, but it's on the land use side, not on the building side.
Okay.
So it's Lyndon, myself, zoning enforcement officer, administrative assistant. Stuff we need backup for the TPZ.
I mean, okay, I
Seems
mean,
a
I'm
bit
just
high.
saying, a naming convention, like you said, it's small stuff, but land and CE, I take it to be civil engineering,
Correct.
right?
Code enforcement?
Code enforcement.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Hold on. Could we please just wait until we're acknowledged before we start talking? Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor, and if you don't mind, just if you, unless
Continue.
you have another question.
Want to continue?
Yes.
Sure.
That's fine.
Back it up.
No, never mind. I'll just hold off. I know we need to move on. That's right. That's right.
Are there any other questions online?
Not a question, but a comment. Some of these items, the increase is just they make sense because you guys have been busier. You know, so naturally you're trying to, the increases are there because you're trying to project out for, you're planning ahead is what it looks like instead of playing catch up. It's like you guys explained with that state fee that's paid for each permit. I think quite a few of these items make quite a bit of sense. And thank you very much for the code enforcement piece. I felt like that was kind of implied with the department, but it's good to specify that. Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll move on.
Okay, thank you, team. Appreciate you. Next, we will present the Department of Public Works. Here with me this evening of our award-winning Public Works Department is Department Head Dan Carter and our town's professional engineer, Robert Trottier. Okay, the department itself is broken into 5 divisions, as you can see: administrative, field ops, engineering, facilities, and fleet division. Next slide. And the budget goes to support all of those and the various capacities and personnel allocated that exists there. You can see the field op is our greatest, is our largest department. Those are the ones that you see mostly on a daily basis around the town. But when you talk about making structures and projects occur, the heart and soul of that is brain centered and with our engineering division, and facilities obviously takes care of all our buildings, and the fleet division keeps us rolling. So next slide, please. In discussing our budget drivers, what we have here, and when you look at the full-time line, the first one, you'll see that appears to be a very significant increase, and that is because we've added a custodian and a maintainer, right? And one of each. And I do thank Councilors Merritt and Councilors Mahan, I'm sorry. Last week, there was an exuberant, response to staffing properly our town departments, as you spoke rather passionately about the library. I said I would come back at you, and guess what? Because we have other needs, and now that we have that new library that we want to be maintained in pristine condition, we're going to be staffed now in a better position to maintain the grounds and maintain the cleanliness of that facility, along with all the other facilities in town. So when you look at that 12% increase, that includes 2 positions. When you look at retirement, obviously the retirement and the next few down the line are outside of our control. But road aid materials, you'll see a reduction in that. And that's basically with us anticipating not as much needed supplies for our storm clearing efforts. So in a nutshell, those are the budget drivers, and subject to your questions, this completes the Department of Public Works. Yes, sir.
Yes, so I've talked to Dan and the team about roads. I think out of everything that I get from the community, that is one of the major impacts. And so, given what's going on in Washington, DC, do you project that any of the supplies are gonna increase because of the tariffs? And have we put in a budget stopgap for those things?
I'll turn it over to Mr. Dan Carter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Dan Carter, I'm Public Works Director. We don't know if tariffs are going to impact our material costs. I don't anticipate a large impact. A lot of our materials associated with capital road work are domestically produced. And the quantities of any materials that potentially could be impacted by tariffs are low enough where I wouldn't anticipate a noticeable impact to our budget.
Quick question, second question is, can you speak just for the public knowledge about, is there a system where people can go online and report potholes? If potholes due to the winter season are created and somebody's tires bust, do we have a replacement if they call you? Like, can you speak to that? If it's a light outage, if there's a road, particularly in my neighborhood, that is terrible, how do residents, do they call a telephone number, or is it there's a software that they can go online and follow the tracking?
So there is, you can report it through the town website, which gets forwarded to us. They can contact the Public Works Department through the town website via email or telephone. If they have an issue, a pothole, tree limb in the road, they can contact. If it's an emergency, they should contact the police department, who will then notify us if we need to come in, or, they'll act accordingly if it's an emergency. We record all of those requests, work order requests. Obviously, then as we complete the work, we close them out. If there is a claim associated with a damaged rim or a tire associated with a pothole, the individual would need to file a claim with the town clerk, the city clerk. Essentially, the process is they will take that claim, they will forward it to the town's insurer, and the insurer will investigate it. If they find that the town was negligent or didn't act in a timely fashion to correct a pothole, for instance, then they make that determination if they would pay the claim.
Okay, thank you for that. I would love to see, I know you said the road list is updated, but as much as we can communicate with residents who roads are being done this spring and following spring, I think that would be helpful to everybody up here. And also congratulations again on being one of the best public works departments in the New England
Thank you.
region. Appreciate the work that
Thank
you
you.
do. Thank you.
Councilor Oliver.
Thank you, Deputy. I have one more question to follow up on Ken's question. Appreciate you, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Would there have to be a police report for something like that? or-
No, it's not necessary. If they contact the city clerk, she can, anybody in the office can give them the process. Essentially, they would just need to give us the who, the what, the where. Ideally, if there's a repair needed to a vehicle, very often, they will include the invoice for the repair. And again, it all gets forwarded to the town's insurance company, who reviews the circumstances, and then they make a determination if they should pay or not.
Okay, and one more question. When we do repave, are we recoding or are we resurfacing, or are we digging up? Are we remilling our product? Are we reusing? the
So,
asphalt?
so the answer is, so essentially, the tools that are in our capital paving program are crack sealing, micro surfacing, which is a resurface, but it's an ultra thin overlay. Mill and pave, where they grind off 1.5 to 2 inches of asphalt, and then we repave it. And then the most extensive capital paving work we do is what we call pavement reclamation. That's when we have a machine comes in and it grinds up not only the asphalt, but it grinds up like the 6 inches of subbase underneath.
Gotcha.
It mixes it all together. Then we grade that out, roll it, and then pave on top of that. That's the most extensive I'm going to call it capital paving work that we do. Beyond that, you're into like a full depth reconstruction, which is really a project. I don't call that maintenance at that point. Gets a little too involved, too expensive.
And I would just like to say kudos to you guys for maintaining the roads like we have. I mean, I know we've been investing into it and voting on stuff, but you guys are out there doing the work, and kudos to you.
And we appreciate it. I know we can't pave enough roads fast enough, but I want the council to be assured, and we have the documentation. Our roads are improving on the average townwide. There's been huge improvement. I've been here for 9 years. There's been a huge improvement. We're resurfacing and paving more roads per year than we ever did. It's a focus of the department. We've heard the council. We're really doing our darndest to do as much as we can, as quickly as we can.
Thank you. Councilor Mahan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And perhaps some of those statistics can be communicated with our strategic communication and government affairs office to have it blasted out to the public, because especially right now when road morale is kind of low coming out of the winter. And I've seen a couple things on social media. If folks would be able to see like the actual figures and statistics behind the improvement that we're seeing in our roads, then perhaps their minds might change a little bit with that. Of course, what they feel maybe it's still going to be there, but seeing those statistics, I think, will help. I do want to ask a question regarding the road aid materials. I was kind of surprised to see it decrease by 12%, especially with the winter that we just had. I know the winter prior was pretty mild, but what was the rationale behind that?
Primarily, the road aid materials degreased because we anticipate less salt use for two reasons. We've made a concerted effort to educate our drivers on how to use salt, when's the right time to use it, when to lay it on heavy, when not to lay it on at all. And it's beginning to pay off. Salt's expensive. We pay between $75 and $90 a ton. We use 100 tons one shot around town. So if you could just eliminate one application of salt, 100 times 90, it's almost $10,000. So it's beginning to pay off. So there's been milder winters. This year was a little bit of a tick up from the last 2 years, but we essentially order our salt. We track the salt we use. We use averages. So the averages have been trending down. We knocked it down a little bit last year, and, you know, we continue to have adequate supply with the funded amounts that we give to the budget. And our, you know, it's a budget, right? It's a prediction, but our prediction is, unless we get, you know, 25, 30 events, which we're getting half that, our salt use is going to continue to go down, and we're going to save money, and we're passing it along. It's just the right thing to do.
Thank you very much for being so conservative with, you know, with your estimates, and for just essentially safeguarding taxpayer dollars. So that's what it boils down to. You know, $34,000 in such a large budget may not seem significant, but it makes a difference to our everyday residents. So thank you very much.
Councilor McCleary.
I agree, because it's 1% of a mill, right? So it's about $3 million to raise a mill. It's less than 1%, because 1% of 3 million is 300,000. So it's like, you know, it's a difference, right? Question about, like, when the MDC, when you're working with the MDC, how do you communicate, like, project timelines to neighborhoods? I know that there's a neighborhood that we talked about earlier that is going to anticipate some construction. Can you talk about that on the record so that I don't have to communicate with a whole neighborhood about construction potentially coming up?
So typically every year in January, we have a capital paving coordination meeting. So that's a meeting called by Public Works, attended by Public Works staff, all of the utility companies, the gas company, MDC, are invited to participate. That's where we share our list of streets that we anticipate paving. They then take that information, they go back to make sure that there's no conflicting road work scheduled. For instance, the neighborhood, Stillman Road, Kenmore Circle, that neighborhood off of Bloomfield Avenue, they brought it to our attention that they're going to be replacing water mains in all of those streets. So right now, that's scheduled to go to construction, the MDC, to do the water main replacement in calendar year 25. We are right now coordinating with them to determine what kind of pavement restoration they will do. And then we can plan for what we may have to do in calendar year 26. But essentially, our plan is after calendar year 26, that entire neighborhood should be new pavement, new curbs. So we're just trying to work out what our contribution is and what MDC's contribution is. It's still in the planning phases for MDC. We have a coordination meeting next Wednesday with town staff. We and Rob in engineering, we are pushing them to have a public outreach meeting. Right now, we don't have a schedule, or I can't sit here and tell you what that's going to be. At a bare minimum, it would be probably a meeting in this building or 330 Park Avenue, or even potentially out on the property. MDC they've already told us they'll distribute flyers to everybody's mailbox in the neighborhood. So in the coming weeks, next month or so, there should be a lot more information flowing about that proposed work. With respect to our capital road work, typically what we do, we post on the website, but we do individual flyers. We also have door hangers.
Good.
So I don't know if anybody's ever showed you. So we go around and we will check off. We have kind of a pre-made door hanger, and it will say paving, and we put the dates and we hang it on the door. We give them the contact information. That usually generates people who have concerns or interests. That way they know it's coming. Simple messages, please don't park on the street, that type of thing. But that's basically our public outreach.
Thank you so much for that. Quick question before you go away again. I didn't see, and maybe I missed it, usually every year I see the sidewalk program.
Yes.
And repairs for sidewalks and extension of sidewalks throughout town. Any plans for extending sidewalks? I've been getting tons of questions about some sidewalk on Bloomfield Avenue so that people can connect to the Starbucks. Say it again?
I was just saying Crestview.
Yeah, Crestview, Bloomfield Avenue.
So essentially sidewalk projects are included in the capital program. There are some sidewalks. We also have a general fund. We did not request money for fiscal year 26 as we feel we have an adequate balance to complete work next year that we need to do. Those funds we primarily are using on existing streets and replacing hazardous existing sidewalks. So we've done a lot of work down in Elizabeth Avenue, Jackson Road area, and that's essentially remove and replace. We've done a lot on Park Avenue. That's essentially what we use those funds for.
Good. And then final question for me, and then you can sit down, is the good counselor down on the end, the senior counselor of the body, usually takes his snow blower and his weed whacker in the spring and the summer to maintain the trails. Do we have a plan for maintaining the trails so that that good feller down on the end of the dais does not have to maintain that thing? Because I know he's getting tired of it. And then can you also talk about our flood mitigation and if you've seen an improvement in flooding across the town? And if not, what is our plan long-term? Thank you.
So first question, Greenway Trail. We do perform maintenance on the Greenway Trail. We did mowing and weed whacking this year. Hopefully, Councilman Merritt didn't need his weed whacker. We do not perform winter maintenance on the trail. Basically, our policy is not to plow it. We kind of allow the winter enthusiasts, the cross-country skiers, and our joining municipality, Simsbury, where we have a connection, they also don't perform winter maintenance. So at this point, we are not plowing the trail. If we do get tasked with plowing the trail, then, once we start removing snow, then we need to maintain it at a higher level than we do now. So then at that point, it becomes a pedestrian thoroughfare that we're going to need to salt. We're going to need to police it for ice, and that type of thing. But currently, we do not plow.
Got it. Thank you.
Can I follow up on that?
Flooding?
Oh, I'm sorry. We did. We've had several flooding projects that have been funded by the council. We're doing flood studies. Partridge Lane is one, High Hill Road is another, Newport Drive. We've got at least 4 that are basically in the design study phase. One of them is, we have a plan. We believe we have but we are making headway towards fixing some of those nuisance flood areas.
Thank you so much.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to point out that other towns do clear sections of the greenway for walkers. Simsbury, for example, in the center of town has, and as do other towns. So that is done. And secondly, we're planning to use some of this greenway, like the section going from center to the high school, is to serve also as a sidewalk for many people. And then I think it would be important that we clear it. And so that whole section of the greenway that's going to go across town between the center and Rockwell, it will be used much as a sidewalk as well as, so in a way is replacing sidewalks And so it serves several purposes. So that will have implications on the current. Thank you.
And we support whatever this council would want to have for quality of life measures with its citizens. Just understanding right now we're structured for our present tasks that we have. Those tasks are, it's becoming mission creep, right? We continue to add to the mission. So in doing so, we also have to continue to add to our ability to be successful in the mission. And that means personnel, and that means resources, that means added money. So we will do what the council wants us to do, but trying to do it with our present resources right now. Dan Carter did ask for more than one maintainer, understanding the budget crisis that we're in now, and the stake of with the reval and everything else. I asked for one, and I asked for one custodian. But we will do what this council wants us to do. All I ask for is the resources to do it so that we can, produce the quality of work that we're known to do. And then when we talk about, when we start to talk about clearing a walkway, right? Everybody who has sidewalks understand that's your responsibility. And if somebody slips and falls on that walkway because of your failure to clean it, then that homeowner is now responsible. In this case, the town will now be liable. So as long as we understand what we're talking about, because once you start, it has to be done right, or we expose ourselves to liability.
Thank you. So we're going to move next to Councilor Oliver, and I'd like to just suggest that we
Keep it moving.
right,
Correct.
exactly.
You took a little bit of the words out of my mouth, Town Manager, so I don't have to ask that question to make that statement, but I do have two more questions for Dan. I see that we have engineer full-time, increasing 16%, is 53K. Does that have to do with wages for like union, contracts, or what? Does it have to do with you wanting to hire another employee?
So those were increases in salary associated with our town engineer, John Tisi, retired in March of 2024. So we recruited, we were lucky enough to hire Rob Trottier, so he came in. And then our deputy town engineer, Sarah Cody, retired or she didn't retire, she resigned to become a full-time mom. She left in July, so we hired a new deputy town engineer, and he came in at a higher salary than we were currently paying for that position. And that essentially is what those salary increases are for fiscal year 26.
Okay, so there are increases in pay.
In pay, correct.
The overtime, well, 500% sounds big, but it's only 1,500, so, we can't.
Yeah, that number, for whatever reason in the budget, was just underfunded.
No, that's fine.
We just wanted to make it a real number because that's what we're spending.
And the other question I have is engineer retirement was 15,000 increase. What is, just for informational purposes so I can understand, what is covered under engineered retirement?
I believe, Daryl, isn't that the 10%? So the town's 401K is that they pay 10% of the base salary. So that's essentially what constitutes or makes up that number.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate your time.
Any more questions? Of course. Councilor McClary.
This insurance is just, this OPEB and retiree healthcare and the medical is just really bothering me. So I know that the Board of Education got like a discount from, or got some new numbers from their broker. Are we looking at?
Yes, sir.
If we can do something and partner with the state or other avenues to kind of try to bring this cost under control?
Those discussions are being had right now. We are looking into it per your guidance and the mayor's guidance as well. So we look forward to being able to report on that, our findings, perhaps as early by next week. So we look forward to that opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. I just,
Councilor Cooper.
thank you, Deputy. As Town Manager, I want this to go on record that thank you so much for the effort in looking at those medical costs for the town. Those raises are going to be unsustainable in the budget. And I've noticed that those costs have gone up, exponentially each year. And so thank you for doing that. And I just wanted to put that on record.
Well, thank you. And I give all the praise and to my team, CFO Daryl Hill and Ms. Sharon Gentle Harris is who basically scouts out the best deals for us. Both of them are right now on point, trying to ensure the best amount of value for our taxpayers' dollars.
Okay. And just a quick question, are you also, just to say, are you also looking to work with the state of Connecticut as part of their plan?
That's exactly what we're looking into to see what's the best cost benefit wise for us. So we will be looking at as many courses of action as possible that could hopefully bring better value to the town.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from my colleagues? Online? Okay, I suspect we can move forward.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just I know never everyone can see, but outside of this chambers, but we do also have, Matt, if you could raise your hand, our facilities manager, Mr. Matt Childress. He's the one who keeps our buildings looking exceptional. And I just thought he should be recognized because I can tell you when I talk about true leadership and an ability to motivate others to achieve goal, that man brings it every day with his custodial staff that is second to none in a lot of municipalities I visit. So thank you for always making our front door welcoming. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yes. Oh, and Mr. Glenn Garrity is back there trying to hide, although he's a large subject, but he's trying to hide, and thanks to the efforts of Mr. Glenn Garrity, we all celebrated. Councilor Mahan, I saw you there yesterday. I wasn't able to interrupt you because I was in and out, but we were all able to celebrate the soft opening of McMahon Library, and we saved a great deal of money because we basically contracted that job in-house under the direction of Mr. Glenn Garrity. So another round of applause for Mr. Glenn Garrity, please. Thank you so much. And DPW, you're set for tonight. Thank you. Have a good evening. Mr. Coleman and Ms. Loriano, you're set for tonight as well. And we're going to end now with our public safety, right? And public safety never goes home. They're 24/7, right? And waiting right now is Chief Hammock, and will be available to you via video once I finish with his initial presentation. So first slide, please. Okay, what we do, you know what they do. They keep us safe, right? They keep us safe, and they're the ambassadors to our community. More often than not, the first and most prominent interaction the public has, whether they be outside of Bloomfield or inside Bloomfield, is in seeing or interacting with our police department. Sometimes on their saddest day, or on their worst day, or on their best day, they're the ambassadors of the town of Bloomfield, and we're proud to have the men and women of the Bloomfield Police Department. Next slide, please. Okay, how are we supported? 49 sworn and 13 civilians. The department is broken down into the following divisions. We have administration, patrol, support services, professional standards, and the Bloomfield Volunteer Ambulance takes care of all medical needs. Next slide, please. Budget drivers. Okay, this budget that Chief Hammock presented basically has no increases other than as we look at those associated with contracted benefits and pay, which was a contracted allotment of wage increases. So as you look down the drivers, you'll see a part-time wages that probably catches your attention there because you see 0 in 2024 and 0 in 2025, and then 70,000 looking at you right there for fiscal year 2026. And this goes back to that correction that I told you that has happened in our building department, in plan department. It also happened here. We were paying for our EMS personnel, part-time EMS personnel out of revenue associated with BVA. But what we should have been doing is having a line item to cover those wages. So when CFO Hill came in, he recognized that and he has us in line. But the good news story about this is although that's 70,000 there, with the revenue that's generated from BVA, that money is paid back. So it's not new money that we now have to find. We're just showing it in the right space at this time. Okay? So medical insurance, you'll see it looks like it's gone up 24% in life and disability. All those things are really grounded in changes that may have happened in personnel as officers, new personnel come and go. They may change how they go about securing insurance from the town. Some may already have insurance with spouses, so they don't need insurance from the town. They're getting paid for not taking the insurance, and some may then, somebody may come in new and now they're taking insurance for the town. So that's always going to be a moving target, and that's why you see that fluctuation in that number. Utility, they show it as a budget driver at 17%, and we have to keep the lights on. That we have no control over that. So subject to your questions, that is what's driving the primary factors in our law enforcement or public safety budget. Yes, sir.
When you have it defined as general wage increase, is that contractual?
It includes, yes, it's all contractual, but it includes what administrative, non-union get as well, which is the 1% and the 2.5 traditionally in line with what the union gets.
And do we define it as fixed costs, or is that a part of administration? What do we put that line item in the overall budget? Is that in the town's operations? So when I look at, no, when I look at the page 14, sorry, and I look at town operations, is that in that town operations? Or is it in fixed charges? So for each department,
Town operations.
Yes,
so for each department, the general wage increases and salary increases is in the town operations.
In their payroll line. So town operations are all the departments.
Yeah, but when we look at page 14, the high-level summary, it falls under town government
yes.
operation.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Any more questions from council and those online? Well, I can't tell if they, oh, that's okay. Councilor Mahan?
Well, not really a question, but I just want to thank the town manager for taking the lead on the presentations. I feel like you've been doing a really good job.
Thank you, sir.
This presentation.
Appreciate
So,
that.
thank you.
The honor is mine to serve, and I thank you for that, sir.
Any other questions?
Well, I think this is awesome. I know Chief Hammock was trying to separate himself from us because he wasn't feeling all that great. You folks must have heard the news and you wanted to spare him a bunch of questions this evening because you're being sympathetic to his health conditions. So with that said, I'll say we are now concluding this night of briefing. And once again, it remains our honor to serve. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So we'll be moving to adjournment.
Yeah, we'll go home by.
So moved.
Oh, my Lord.
Is there a second?
Lord.
Second.
All right.